Good evening, America. I'm Gene Bailey, and you're watching FlashPoint. We're glad you're with us tonight. So much to talk about. Listen, I want you to go right now and share this on all your social media sites. Many of you are wondering why we're not on Victory Channel tonight. They have a live event they're covering, but I'm glad you're here. If you're watching this later, glad you found us and you watch us. Listen, I want to promote something that you're going to hear more and more and more about. Of course, you have our Rumble pages, you have our YouTube pages. You can find all that at fparmy.com. But aside from that, we are broadcasting as well on Roku with Integrity Television, and you're going to want to follow that because there's even more news coming about that. So go get the Integrity Television app on Roku. There's a lot of Roku users out there. A lot of you actually have Roku on your TV. Go download that, and you'll understand why in just a little bit of time. So much to happen. Listen, and I want to encourage you, if you haven't signed up for the War Room, this is a great opportunity. Look at what has been going on in our world in the last few weeks. Go sign up at fparmy.com/war room. That is the prayer community. The prayer community, that's where we only send you emails when there's a prayer target that we feel like we need to alert you about, and we'll send that to you. Doesn't cost you anything. Just join other believers in prayer and other ministries. Pray along with us. So join that as well. Well, let me welcome my panel tonight. Good friend Rick Green and another good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Liz Joy joins us later. Colonel, I want to ask you, weigh in. I haven't talked to you since the Iran and Qatar, all the stuff that's happened over there with bombing. What's your overall take of what has happened in the Middle East?
Well, it's good to be with you, Gene. It's great to see my dear friend Rick. And, you know, I was a freshman at the University of Tennessee in 1979 when we had the Iranian hostage crisis. And right when I was coming on active duty, October the 23rd of 1983, that's when we had the Beirut barracks bombing. 234 Marines, sailors, and soldiers lost their lives there at the hands of Hezbollah, which we all know is a proxy army of Iran. Iran has been going after the United States of America for quite some time. Even when I was deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, we had to contend with the explosive force penetrators, a very deadly improvised explosive device. It was time that the United States of America took action against the nuclear capability that Iran was trying to develop. The last time America attacked Iran was on the seas, and that was during 1988, Operation Praying Mantis in the Reagan administration, when one of their sea mines struck a U.S. naval vessel out in the Straits of Hormuz, and Ronald Reagan, unleashed the United States Navy. So I think it was a great day. I think it was an incredible operation that we saw that went off flawless, unlike Jimmy Carter's Desert One debacle that, when he tried to rescue the Iranian hostages. So we took away that capability and capacity. I don't care what CNN and all these other media outlets are saying.
Yeah, and we'll dive into a little bit more of that. But you remember when President Reagan was elected, we were coming off the heels of Jimmy Carter and coming off the heels of the Vietnam War and all the stuff that did or didn't happen there. There was a real resurgence, and we've talked about it here on FlashPoint before, a real resurgence of patriotism. And I remember, I think one of the very first actions that he took was a run in Grenada. And the bombing run there, and a ground attack there, and I remember. I don't know if you remember all of this or not, but I remember hey, it was victorious. We won something. It wasn't. We were shedding the Vietnam horrific stuff that happened and didn't happen there, and all the political junk that was surrounded. We were starting to see, hey, not only can we be proud about America, we can actually get some things done. And I really felt the same way after watching what happened. And Rick, I'll go to you with this. Watching what happened with the president and the B-2s hitting over to Iran and the nuclear bases, it was that same feeling, look at that. We do have the best military in the world, and they can pinpoint and drop down, those bunker busters down an air ventilation pipe all the way down to where they need to go. This is why we elected who we elected.
Yeah, to have that decisiveness and that clarity of mission and clarity of right and wrong, that's what's missing. I think the people that become apologetic about America, that are embarrassed by our power and our strength, For some of them, it's just because they're leftists. They want to be citizens of the world and not citizens of America. But then there's a lot of people that it's just because they don't understand. They end up with this, foggy, muddy leadership that a Joe Biden gives, or a we need to help the world and apologize for America, Barack Obama, or Jimmy Carter and the Malays, and just get used to things not being good. That kind of stuff takes away patriotism, and it makes you maybe not forget that we're powerful or that our military is amazing and it can do incredible things, but you're just concerned about, well, how's it going to be used? Then you get a Ronald Reagan, like you're talking about, that's decisive, right, not only in terms of being willing to use that power, but the restraint to pull back and not use that power when something like Beirut happens that the Colonel was talking about. And Donald Trump just simply has that in spades, maybe more so than Reagan, just that decisiveness, that willingness to use the power, but also the restraint to pull back and the clarity to know right and wrong. I think you put all that together and we can once again feel good about the power of America, feel good about our might and our strength, because we know that it's being used as a force for good around the world.
Well, now, this is an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, Colonel West. In the last administration, I don't think, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that Biden would have done what President Trump did, or the auto pen wouldn't have signed anything. Do you really, how important, Rick was talking about a decisive, and you know what, I really appreciate all of the people that have come out, and we're gonna get to Pete Hegseth's response here in just a moment. All of those people that have come out, including all the fake news, the CNN reporters, and I don't know, CNN is just trying for anything to stick to get some ratings. It's just not going to work. But with all of that's happening, he still stands by what he did. And I think that's what we all want to see, is we want leadership that not only does the right thing, but then stands by it, doesn't second guess what they did. I mean, your opinion, how does that affect the military? How does that affect the troops? How does that affect the guys that are getting the job done?
It's very simple. I mean, consider you had a quote unquote commander in chief that basically left Americans in a very precarious situation, abandoned them in Afghanistan, was responsible for the death of some 13 Marines, sailors and soldiers there at the Kabul International Airport, Karzai International Airport, and then took no responsibility for it whatsoever. And now you have a very decisive president. You had a president who once upon a time looked down at his watch during the ramp ceremony for those That's 13 right. individuals coming back home. And so what did you see? The focus of the Biden administration, it was on DEI. It was about telling certain soldiers or members, because of your skin pigmentation, you're a victim. The others, they are, oppressors. You don't build cohesion. You don't have a fighting force that's more so focused on drag queen shows and transgenderism, things of this nature. And you saw the world take advantage of us. You saw Vladimir Putin, what he did, his incursion into Ukraine. You saw Iran, China, right. North Korea, everybody, Islamic jihadists. So now you have someone that is willing to, as Rick said, take that decisive action and do so and stand by his decision. And you saw him just recently going over to NATO. They understand that. They realize that America is back. And it's so important to have a strong America, not a dictatorial America, not a tyrannical America, not an imperialist America, but a strong America.
Amen. Amen. Right. All right, let me show. Of course, like I said earlier, they all came after. There wasn't really. In fact, control room, I want to play this Jen Psaki. I don't know where that is. Let me know when you forgot it. I want to play her report because this sums up. When I saw this, I thought, wow, I'm going to play what Jen Psaki said, the report she gave, that she has yet to walk back, and then I'll play what Pete Hegseth said today. Watch Jen Psaki.
Early U.S. intel assessments suggest strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites. From the New York Times, strikes set back Iran's nuclear program by only a few months, U.S. report says. That's according to an initial classified intelligence assessment, which reportedly found that the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, quote, did not collapse their underground buildings and set back Iran's nuclear program by only a few months. In fact, from all this reporting, a lot of it came out this afternoon, it turns out that much of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was moved before the strikes, which destroyed little of the nuclear material. In our own reporting, NBC News put an even finer point on it, saying, quote, An initial assessment by the Defense Intelligence Agency concludes that the U.S. airstrikes conducted over the weekend on Iran's nuclear enrichment sites were not as effective as Donald Trump said. To state the obvious, claiming you obliterated Iran's nuclear program doesn't make it so. And it's something that people then assess, including the military. But for Trump, it's always about the one day of headlines, the one-word slogan, claiming victory right off the bat, about obfuscation and defiance being prioritized over facts. And that will continue, I expect, even in the face of these new facts.
Now, here's the thing. If you're not paying attention, that almost sounds believable. They got the graphics. And Jen Psaki, she was the right. This is a load of stuff there. I edited myself. Let me show you what Pete Hegseth, he addressed a lot of this today. Jen Psaki has yet to circle back and fix that. Watch what Pete Hegseth had to say.
President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in history. And it was a resounding success, resulting in a ceasefire agreement and the end of the 12-day war. There's been a lot of discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. Step back for a second. Because of decisive military action, President Trump created the conditions to end the war, decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities. I want to read some of the assessments that have been provided, because whether it's fake news, CNN, MSNBC, or the New York Times, there's been fawning coverage of a preliminary assessment. I've had a chance to read it. Every outlet has breathlessly reported on a preliminary assessment from DIA. I'm looking at it right now. Again, it was preliminary, a day and a half after the actual strike, when it admits itself in writing that it requires weeks to accumulate the necessary data to make such an assessment. It's preliminary. It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all. There's low confidence in this particular report. It says in the report there are gaps in the information. It says in the report multiple linchpin assumptions are what this assessment, a linchpin assumption, you know what that is? That means your entire premise is predicated on a linchpin. If you're wrong, everything else is wrong. And yet, and still, this report acknowledges it's likely severe damage. Again, this is preliminary, but leaked because someone had an agenda to try to muddy the waters and make it look like this historic strike wasn't successful.
Yeah. Now, Rick, I'll go to you. Politics just never goes away. Was it Rob Emanuel? Don't ever let a good crisis go to waste, or I don't remember. But that was, this is political. Instead of coming at this from, and I know both sides have done it, I get that. Everybody does this, but let's keep the main thing the main thing. Iran had nuclear capabilities. We went and bombed it, had a very precise strike, and now they don't. I'm going to show you what President Trump had to say, but I want to get your comment here, Rick, first. The political side of all of this.
It's journalistic malpractice. Even the title of her segment, Never Trust? Come on. How about Reagan's line? Trust, but verify. Absolutely. That's why here at FlashPoint and Wall Builders and Patriot Academy and all our organizations, we always say, let's tell the whole story, man. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We don't run away from the bad, but we're certainly going to tell the good. And Secretary Hegseth talked about that in that press conference. Why is nobody talking about what it took to do these precision strikes? Just the unbelievable coordination, technology, just amazing men and women that pulled this thing off. Absolutely incredible. Let's do some cover stories on that. Let's talk about that. And by the way, even when she says, and it's almost like these people are rooting against America. They always sound like that, right? If it's anything positive about America, they don't want to talk about it. But even if she's right, even if it only set Iran's nuclear capability back a few months, well, okay, thanks for setting it back a few months. If we can do that in 36 hours, let's just do that every once in a while, and we'll keep them from being able to get those nuclear weapons. But it's just a negative nanny, negative Nancy, always rooting against America. And I'm so thankful that not only President Trump's in office with that clarity that the Colonel was talking about and that decisiveness, but also that you got guys like Pete Hegseth that don't just ignore all of this stuff. They hit it head on. They counter it. I mean, it's just incredibly well done to have these incredible communicators in these positions like SecDef, somebody that's a warrior, an elite warrior like Colonel West is, and also is able to communicate like a Colonel West. Frankly, I'd like to see him as Secretary of Defense soon as well, but not until Pete Hegseth's done.
Geez.
But anyway, my point is we're going to win these arguments and win the American people because President Trump is putting good people in these positions to make the arguments, and then people can come to FlashPoint and get the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's right. And, you know, the reality is Pete was on Fox News guy for a long time. So he knows how the engine works. He knows how it's played.
That's right.
Let me get your, before I go to President Trump's comment, I want to get your take on all of this, Colonel West.
Well, you know, I was an artillery officer for 22 years, and anytime you strike a target with artillery, you're going to try to get whatever intelligence you can to do the BDA, the battle damage assessment. And when you're talking about a surface target, it's very easy to get an assessment on a surface target. But when you talk about an underground target, especially one that's 200, 300 feet below, what you have to look is on the surface, what type of charring has happened. I think the most important people that could give you a battle damage assessment would be those pilots that flew the mission. Maybe they could understand the second and third explosion effects that they saw. And if there was an opportunity for Iran to withdraw any of that enriched uranium material, I would trust the Israeli intelligence service, the Mossad, because I would kind of bet that they had eyes on that target, making sure that nothing was leaving out of that target. And maybe perhaps those Israeli aircraft jets, those were some of the targets that they took out, any trucks or any facilities where those trucks would have gone to. And so we've already had several nuclear agencies saying that and confirming what President Trump has said. That capability, that capacity has been obliterated. It's been set back for quite a few years. And not until you get someone that can go in 200, 300 feet. And I don't think Jen Psaki is going to do that. So she should not be talking about things she doesn't understand and is not going to try to gain intelligence on.
Well, it's an indictment on journalism, and it's really sad. But let me read you what President Trump put his real truth out there. We just caught the failing New York Times working with the fake news CNN, cheating again. They tried to demean the great work that our B-2 pilots did, so they're wrong in doing so. These reporters are just bad and sick people. You know, Trump has such a way with words. You would think they would be proud of the great success we had instead of trying to always make our country look bad. Total obliteration. Total obliteration indeed. One of the pilots, this is not a quote, but said the only thing he had to go on is the fact the charge, like what you just said, Colonel West, was the brightest he had ever seen when it went off, that lit up the night sky as if bright as daylight, which meaning it was a very effective drop. Let me show you this tweet. What Lance, this is this tweet. Yeah, let's go back to number 3, guys. I'll show you that. This is Flashpoint Army. We posted, what POTUS has done isn't just political, it's prophetic. By holding the line, he's extended the time for the gospel, spread around the world. Now it's time for believers to pray, right leadership to rise up in Iran, and for our hearts to be open to truth of Jesus. Are you praying for revival? And then, of course, Lance's quote there, keep praying in the Holy Ghost for right leadership to emerge in Iran. What President Trump has done to extend the time for the gospel is to extend the time for the gospel to go around the world. Now, the point here is, the reason I want to mention that is there's all this chatter on all the news networks about regime change. Do we want a new regime or do we want to leave Khomeini in there? I want to ask you your take on that. Is it more important, Colonel West, to leave Khomeini in there the way he is right now, or to take him out?
Well, I think it, again, comes back to the scope of this operation. The scope of this operation was to eradicate a capability that Iran was pursuing. That was a nuclear weapons capability that we know that they would eventually use. If it comes down to changing the leadership in Iran, that is up to the people of Iran to be able to do that. But one of the reports of targets that were hit by the Israeli Air Force was the command and control, the headquarters of the Iranian military force that is responsible for putting down resistance to the regime. And so I think that Israel was looking strategically to maybe set the conditions for the resistance to step up, unlike Barack Obama, who basically let the resistance in Iran, be murdered and executed on the streets. And when you talk about the Bible and the gospel, you're seeing an incredible growth of Christianity in Iran. Remember, these aren't Muslim people. These are Persians. They have an incredible, great history. And I think that they want to go back and reclaim that history. They don't want to have the history of Islamic jihadism. Iran was a very Western, very modern, very progressive country prior to 1979, when, of course, Islamic jihadism and the revolution of Ayatollah Khamenei overtook that country.
Yeah, without a doubt. And we all, the point here that I am thrilled that he did. At first, I was like, oh, come on, we need to finish the job. But no, this is if the Iranian people want regime change, that's theirs to do. That's not ours to do. We don't need to meddle in that. If they want a regime change, they can take care of that. All right, let me show you this before we go to break. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, one of the president's key objectives is the Abraham Accords be expanded. Watch.
One of the president's key objectives is that the Abraham Accords be expanded, that more countries come into it, and we are working on that on my team and in coordination with the Secretary of State and the entire State Department. And we think we're going to have some pretty big announcements on countries that are now coming into the Abraham Peace Accords. And we're hoping for normalization across an array of countries that maybe people would have never contemplated would come in. So we're excited for that prospect. That will also be a stabilizer in the Middle East.
Okay, Rick, I get a little nervous when we start talking about expanding the Abraham Accords. I think it's a great and noble thing, but I'm like, this is political. I think any of us that come from many of our viewers understand Scripture and what we're seeing. Do you think this is just really a good idea, or is it that something we have to walk out anyway?
I'm smiling, Gene, because you started saying exactly what was going through my head as I was watching that clip. Is it always sounds nice to say we're bringing more nations into the peace, but even I think, frankly, Reagan, who I always remind everybody, I got a kid named Reagan, dog named Dutch, another kid born on his birthday, did a documentary about. I'm a Reagan fan, okay. But Reagan put too much pressure on Israel. I think there were presidents, Republican and Democrat both, that put pressure on Israel to give up land, to put themselves in a weaker position multiple times. And so I'm exactly like you. Whenever they start having these accords and these talks, I'm always concerned that they're going to, for the sake of peace or to get a Nobel Prize or whatever, put the pressure in the wrong direction. But I will say what we've said for the last couple of weeks. Trust the guy in the room. Donald Trump has earned our trust on these things, and the team that he's got, he's just been masterful at knowing how far to push, when to pull back. I think even the whole regime change thing is like, we would all love to see, the Ayatollah gone, but the president, he's just got this great instinct for how far to go. And I got a feeling that even on the regime change thing, he's saying he's not pushing for a regime change, up to the Iranian people. I'm sure he's probably rooting for one, but he also realizes that's full of risk as well. I just think, man, I've just got, and I'm not saying this like a total trust and don't verify and whatever he wants to do. We're obviously going to call, balls and strikes no matter what or who it is. But he's certainly, he's got more trust from me right now than any president of my lifetime that he's going to do the right thing when he gets in that room.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right. We're going to keep following this story here at FlashPoint, and we're going to continue to bring it. Now, this is why those of you tonight that are watching us live on YouTube, Rumble, Integrity Television, you need to continue to do that, because we will interrupt the day to bring you all of the live breaking news. So keep your eye on those outlets as well. But right now, let's talk about what happened. The rest of what happened today is in NATO. Here's our friend from Victory News, Mike Garofalo, to bring us the latest. Mike.
Gene, President Trump received high praise on Wednesday at the NATO summit from Secretary General Mark Rutte.
I just want to recognize your decisive action of Iraq. Thank you. You are a man of strength, but you're also a man of peace. And the fact that you are now also successful in getting this ceasefire done between Israel and Iran. I really want to commend you for it. And I think this is important for the whole world.
And Donald Trump also spoke about the NATO meeting and members' contributions.
A major focus of our conversations at the summit was the need for other NATO members to take up the burden of the defense of Europe, and that included the financial burden. As you know, it was 2%, and we got it up to 5%. And they said, a couple of them came up to me, one in particular said, "Sir, we've been trying to get it up to 3% for 20 years, and we haven't been able, and you got it up to 5%.
The president said the increased funding will be known as the Hague Defense Commitment. And while talking to the press, a sympathetic moment took place between President Trump and a Ukrainian journalist. Here is the reporter for BBC Ukraine talking to Donald Trump.
My husband is there.
Wow.
And
I can see you very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids. I'm in Warsaw, actually, because he wanted me to be.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
He's
there now?
Yeah.
Wow. That's rough stuff, right? That's tough. And you're living here?
In Warsaw.
And you're a reporter?
I am.
Good. So let me just tell you, they do want to have the missiles, okay, as they call them, the Patriots. And we're going to see if we can make some available. They're very hard to get.
And then Mr. Trump spoke out more as a father and grandfather, and then as the leader of the free world.
I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So say hello to your husband, okay?
BBC News called it the most emotional moment of the conference. Gene.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so when you see that, Colonel West, there's a few things that stand out to me in that clip that Mike just played for us. No other president that I can think of would have engaged a reporter on that level in the middle of NATO like he did. And yes, he was kind and compassionate in his words. That goes a long way with the American people, but it's not just the American people. It goes a long way with the world.
No, you're absolutely right. And it was kind of like that moment when Ronald Reagan, and even though his speechwriters did not want him to say this line, but he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." That incredible moment, that line set forth the, enthusiasm, and it was an emotional moment, not just for America. It was an emotional moment for those people in Germany. It was an emotional moment for the people in Eastern Europe, and you saw what eventually happened. So, yes, for him to engage this young woman, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, who had just, conducted and gave approval for one of the greatest air operations in the history of the world, took the time to, like a Jesus, to reach down and talk to what would be, the least of these. And he showed that compassion. And I think that is going to go a long ways. And it would not surprise me if you don't see him pretty soon traveling down to Poland and maybe also reunifying with that young reporter. But remember, it was Barack Obama that canceled the missile systems going to Poland back during his administration. And it was Barack Obama that sent MREs and socks to the Ukrainians as Vladimir Putin was coming across the border to invade. So again, I think that the theme that we're talking about is strong leadership, principled leadership, and caring leadership.
Yeah, I like that, caring leadership. Rick, your thoughts before we go to break?
Yeah, such a difference. I mean, the Colonel pointed it out earlier, even in the treatment of the Iranians and how Barack Obama and Joe Biden propped up the regime and hurt the folks that wanted to stand against it. And President Trump's doing the exact opposite. And I think it's really important to notice what President Trump does with the political capital that he's gaining. You think about even in the first few months of office, how he has been able to gain so much favor with the American people and then use that to move the agenda forward. I think now you've got this national favor. Think about it. He could have walked into this NATO conference being pompous and arrogant and saying, "I brought peace in 12 days. Look at what I did." And then he does something like this that shows that he's actually caring about other people. I think we're about to see him, and we need to all pray for this, but I think we're about to see him gain tremendous political capital all the way around the world and use it to strengthen America and help people around the world to become free. It could literally be, this is going to be similar to the Reagan Revolution. It's going to be similar to very few moments in history where this gets spread across the world. And so we need to pray that God gives him the wisdom and the discernment to use this political capital that he's gaining with us, but also with these people around the world for things that are going to last for a generation.
Yeah, amen. Amen to that. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to discuss the Voice of America, Carrie Lake, and what in the world is going on in New York. Be right back after this.
FlashPoint Live is coming to Evangel World Prayer Center in Louisville, Kentucky, July 3rd and 4th. Your host, Gene Bailey, is joined by Hank Kuhneman, Lorenzo Sewell, Lance Wallnow, and Ed Rush for 2 breakthrough-filled nights of bold truth and spiritual insight. Register for this free event at fparmy.com/Kentucky, July 3rd and 4th, Louisville, Kentucky. This is your moment. It's time to accelerate to the next level of FlashPoint. The War Room is calling. Join the FlashPoint War Room, a powerful community of believers standing together in prayer, unity, and bold support. Get exclusive updates on what God is doing right now through this movement. Stand in faith, stand for truth, and stand with FlashPoint as we press into what God is doing in this season. Whether you're a pastor, intercessor, or a passionate viewer, this is your call to action. Go to fparmy.com and join the War Room today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Bailey. You're watching FlashPoint.
It's official. FlashPoint is now 4 nights a week. You can catch us every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. More news, more encouragement, more opportunities to stand for truth. Don't miss a moment.
What you guys do, it's immeasurable.
Make sure you go online and share this with all of your friends, your family, even people you don't know.
FlashPoint, always to the right of center.
FlashPoint Live is coming to Fort Worth, Texas on Sunday, July 27th at 6 p.m. Central. Join host Gene Bailey at the Fort Worth Convention Center for a night of bold truth and prophetic insight. Special guests include Dutch Sheets, Kylie Jean Tannehill, Hank Kuhneman, John Amanchukwu, and Mark Meckler, with special guest Kenneth Copeland. Go to fparmy.com/Fort Worth to register and get ready to accelerate your faith with FlashPoint.
Welcome back to the second half. Listen, I want to mention what's coming up. 1 week from today, we will be in Louisville, Kentucky for FlashPoint Live. And look at all of those people. Lance Wallnow, Hank Kuhneman, Lorenzo Sewell, Ed Rush, special guest Brian Gibson will join us, and Phil Driscoll on July 4th. And then fireworks. Come on. What else do you want? There's FlashPoint Live Kentucky. You could not spend a better way for your July 4th unless you're at Patriot Academy down there in Fredericksburg. But anyway, you're going to enjoy what you're doing with us. Come join us. Come be a part. And if you can't, make sure you watch us on television. But I do want to see you there. It's not too late. We're going to be outside. And if you get hot, you can go inside. We got fans. We got all kinds of stuff. We got T-shirts. We got hats. All of that. Go to the flashpointstore.com. You can get the new plant. In fact, let's show the plant shirt. Might as well do that. You got the plant shirt. Show it. This started out in, this is at the FlashPoint store. This is Psalm 118, verse 17, about I will live and not die. Now, we started talking about this because of Ed Rush's plant. That's such a topic on the show. Do you have the tight shot at all? You probably don't. Anyway, in that, but what has happened is it's taken on, Rick, you'll appreciate this, it's taken a whole nother meaning. We had people reach out that are cancer survivors. In fact, there's one person that's buying 2 shirts, one for their relative who's going through cancer, so they would wear, I will live and not die, and when the scripture proclaim it. I mean, this is such a FlashPoint thing. I mean, we've designed it, redid it on the, on the cuff, right off the cuff here, while the show was going. And look, now people are getting ministered to. I mean, and the orders, Rick, people are buying these shirts. And now there's a hat about abiding in there. All of this is all out there on flashpointstore.com. But Rick, this is what I like about FlashPoint. people, there's something, we have the ability to be spontaneous, to react to news, and as well as to be able to give people tools to work with.
Well, we have fun and we have a great time, but it's grounded in God's word. That's what's so cool about it. I mean, the reason we can all cut up with each other and pick on each other and have fun in brotherly love kind of way, and then talk about things like Ed's plant, and then end up with a prophetic promise that if that prophetic promise worked for the plant, it can work for us. I mean, you know, look, only at Flashpoint is that kind of fun going to be happening. By the way, the answer to your question, what more could you want at Kentucky for Flashpoint Live on July 4th? The answer is fried chicken. It's Kentucky, KFC. That's
right.
why I'm staying at Patriot Academy, Gene. That's why I'm not going to be with you that weekend, because you didn't promise me some KFC. That's it.
If you come,
Sorry.
I'll bring you some. I'll get you some chicken.
All right, deal.
Okay, all right. Let me
Original
move
or
along.
extra crispy? Original.
Original. Original. Nothing
It's
better.
got to be original. Okay, so Colonel West, does that mean you're an extra crispy guy?
I'm an extra crispy guy.
So if you get the mixed bucket, then Alan and I both will come, and we'll do the Ebony and Ivory tour all the way into Kentucky, and we'll join you for I'm already committed at Patriot Academy. I wish I could. It'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. Let me welcome in Liz Joy. Liz, we got some news to talk about. What kind of chicken do you like from Kentucky Fried? Crispy, original? And don't say you don't eat Kentucky Fried.
I think I'm pretty boring. I think I'm just your grilled chicken on the grill, literally on the grill kind of girl. So I think I'm a little bit boring.
Well,
I thought she was going to say Chick-fil-A. I thought we would get some, competition going.
We don't really have, well, we do. We have two here, but that's it. That's it. So.
All right, we're going to get to the details in New York, but Liz, I wanted to bring it in early because I wanted to talk about this. Let me show you this. Carrie Lake posted this on her Twitter feed. She responds to Greg Stanton of Arizona's meltdown before the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Watch what she had to say. Now, she's talking about Voice of America and all that's going on. And then this guy is he's a real jerk. But anyway, Carrie Lake, man, she owns him. Watch.
I wish I could yield back the last 5 minutes of my life, actually. And I want to apologize to the people of Arizona that we have somebody who's representing the folks in one of our great parts of the Valley that doesn't care about the integrity of our election. So but you weren't here. You came in late. And we were talking about USAGM today, the Agency for Global Media, and how they can put out absolute abject lies, and we can't control any. We have no say over what the editorial content is, and I would hope that you would not be okay with that. They could literally put out a lie about anybody here, and I know you've been the victim of that. I know you've been the victim. I remember the stories about you where they said you had a gay lover, and those were going on all
Mr. Chairman.
Can I?
I hope you honor what you just gave as a caution to everyone, and I moved those words.
To tell you that those kind of lies, and you said those were lies, those kind of lies could be broadcast today on VOA, and you couldn't pick up the phone, Representative Stanton, and call them and say, hey, you're putting out lies about me. You would not be able to do that because they would sue you for breaking the firewall. So lies are being told on Voice of America. It's inappropriate. You've been subjected to lies that you said were lies about you in the media before. And how would you like it if those lies were put on Voice of America right now? Because they could do it, and you couldn't do a thing about it. You couldn't stop it. You couldn't stop all those lies that you said were said about you if they went on Voice of America today. You'd have to sit and take it.
And I think she proved her point. Let me show you that Congressman Andy Barr said, Carrie Lake's doing heroic work eliminating the anti-American rhetoric at Voice of America News. If we are to have VOA, it should be about promoting America, not Chinese Communist Party propaganda. Now, there's a topic that we have not enough time to talk about. But yes, the Chinese Communist propaganda and those working for the Chinese Party have been involved in Voice of America, which is crazy. But I digress. Liz, this is the type of issue that we're seeing in a lot of government agencies. I want to get your quote and your comment on what you saw there from Carrie Lake.
Well, I love Carrie Lake. I supported Carrie Lake. I think that she's wonderful. I think she should be, I wish she was, the governor of Arizona. And then, of course, the senator of Arizona when she ran for that as well. And I will say in regard to the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party, look, we're enduring it right here in New York, where we just saw months ago, a top aide in Kathy Hochul's administration who was with the CCP. She was removed, and most recently, she was just charged as an unregistered foreign agent for China and the Communist Party. So we are enduring all of it right here in New York State. Kari Lake is right on point, and many of us are enduring it. And the more we stand up for truth, standing up for the right things, for the right reasons, we are going to push through to get the results that we need to keep America on track and put my state, New York State, as well on the right trajectory. We have a battle.
Before I leave VOA, Colonel West, VOA has a great history. Unfortunately, we, as a country with VOA, had departed, and it became such a political, liberal, left-wing, communist agenda-driven outlet. And I applaud President Trump for putting Kari Lake in there to clean it up. Your thoughts?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you think about once upon a time, Voice of America was piped in behind the Iron Curtain to talk about liberty and freedom and individual rights. And that was such an important aspect of it. But now somehow it's been co-opted by the very same people, the communists, the progressives, the socialists, the Marxists, and now they're proliferating their message here in America and elsewhere. So that's a concern we have with TikTok. And that's definitely the concern that we have seen with a state-run media that's been proliferated by the progressive socialist left here in America, to include, using some of these platforms to censor American free speech to counter the messaging.
Without a doubt. All right, let's go to New York, because Liz, you got your work cut out for you. All right, so in case you don't know what's been happening, you're going to hear a name, Zohran Mamdani. Sounds like the great Zoltan from the movie Big. Rick Green, you remember that movie? The great Zoltar.
Yes, it was Tom Hanks when he was young, right?
Yeah. Zohran Mamdani, 33-year-old state assembly mayor from Queens, and assembly member from Queens. And if elected, he become the first Muslim mayor. Watch this.
Been a stunning development. Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani declares victory as the Democratic nominee for New York City mayor. Disgraced ex-governor Cuomo calling him to concede without ruling out an independent ticket run in November. Watch.
I will be your Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism.
Tonight was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night. I called him, I congratulated him.
So, joining us now is New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is running, even though he got elected as a Democrat, he's running for re-election as an independent. For your first response to that stunning news, Governor Cuomo is not going to be Mayor Cuomo.
Well, first, it's not stunning to me, and I was very clear, and I'm still a Democrat. I'm running on an independent line, which the policy in the law allows me to do. You had one candidate that was running away from his record. You had another candidate with no record, and you have Eric Adams with a record. I delivered for the city, and we're not going backwards. We're not going into a place where we want to defund the police, don't invest in jobs, where we believe we can make broken promises that we can't deliver. I delivered on every promise I gave to
Mr. Mayor, it's not just defund the police. This candidate, Democratic Socialist, he wants to freeze the rent. He wants city-run grocery stores, social workers to replace the police, because that's going to help. He wants $60 billion of debt fund for affordable housing. He wants free buses, no cost for childcare, baby baskets for newborn, and a $30 minimum wage. How can someone vote for this?
How can someone vote for this? All right. Now, Liz, I want you to go first. But listen, we have many, many viewers in New York. And guys, we're pulling for you. We're pulling for you, but you're going to have to turn this thing around and vote in the election. This is crazy. And I think it's funny how Eric Adams tries to push himself almost as the conservative one of the group. Where did that come from?
Well, I will say in this race right now, He looks like the conservative of the group. However, there is a Republican choice named Curtis Sliwa, who has fought for New York for a very, very long time. So he is going to be the Republicans' choice. But here's something that's really important that, Carrie Lake had just spoken about a little while ago about voting, and you just mentioned it, Jean, and I just want to point this out. Everybody out there needs to know, New York has no voter ID. New York State has 0 voter ID, and we have these elections coming up here with this mayor's race, local elections as well, but we also have our governor's race. And you have to remember that New York State itself has about 19 million people, and New York City itself has 8 to 9 million people, depending on which source you go to for the number. And so we have no voter ID. We are America's largest city. New York City is America's largest city. And voters turned out on Tuesday night, New Yorkers. They despised Andrew Cuomo so much because of how he handled COVID, the lies, the COVID deaths, the 15,000 seniors that perished, and the way that he handled it, and all of these allegations of sexual assault by 12 different women that came out against him. New Yorkers despise Andrew Cuomo so much that they literally ranked a socialist as number 1. Now, what is the danger of Zohran Mamdani? Here is my opinion of that and why I believe he's dangerous. Number 1, he helped to he co-founded the Students for Justice for Palestine at his university. And you have to remember that this was the exact group that turned out for all of the protests that turned very violent at Columbia University, New York University, where we have all throughout much of the New York University system a very bad anti-Semitic problem that we really do have in New York. Number 2, why else is he dangerous? He refuses to condemn globalization of intifada, which really is very well known for calling against violent acts against Jews and terrorist acts against Jews. Well, here in New York, we have the largest population of Jews outside of Israel. We have the largest population of Jews outside of Israel. And number 3, one of the things that he actually said himself, if Benjamin Netanyahu came to New York City, he would arrest him. Well, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu is going to come to New York City. It's the home of the United Nations. Benjamin Netanyahu has spoken there before, and of course he's going to be coming into New York City. And this man who just won the Democrat primary, a self-avowed socialist, has said he will arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, refuses to, condemn the phrase intifada. And his platform that he's running on is very, very dangerous. And the fourth thing I want to point out, he has vocally said he will not cooperate with Homeland Security. Tom Homan, who is trying to remove violent, illegal, criminal aliens from New York. So this is
let me interrupt you right here, and because I want to get to these few things that corroborate what you're saying. Look at this. Latinos with Trump says socialist New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani once voiced his love for the 5 leaders of a notorious nonprofit convicted of funneling more than $12 million to the terror group Hamas. Now, this is from the New York Post saying this. In fact, let me show you. This is Mamdani standing with terrorist groups. We'll look at this video.
In 2017, Zohran Mamdani released a rap track that praised 5 convicted Hamas funders known as the Holy Land Five. Now he wants to run New York. Mamdani says, look him up. So we did. These 5 men were convicted of funneling over $12 million to Hamas, a U.S. designated terrorist organization responsible for the murder, rape, and kidnapping of civilians, including Americans. Mamdani sent his love to convicted Hamas funders. Let that sink in. Mamdani says, no wall will make it fall. That's an open door for criminals and chaos. Zohran Mamdani stands with convicted terrorist funders and wants open borders. This is New York City. not a sanctuary for terrorists. Zohran Mamdani, unfit, un-American, unthinkable.
It is unthinkable. President Trump posted this. It finally happened. The Democrats crossed the line. Zohran Mamdani, 100% communist lunatic, just won the Democratic primary on his way to becoming mayor. I don't think that's going to happen. I believe people are going to turn out to vote. We've had radical lefties before, but this is getting a little ridiculous. He looks terrible. The voice is grating. Not all very smart. He's got AOC plus 3 dummies all backing him, and even our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, who's groveling over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our country. I'll stop right here before I go to the next one and get your comment, Colonel West. It is unthinkable. I like what Liz said. She said they hate Cuomo so much. Hate's a strong word. They don't want Cuomo so much that they voted for this guy, which is, how bad do you have to be in America that they would vote for him? Your thoughts?
It's pretty amazing. It reminds me of the saying, they cut off their nose to spite their face. That's exactly what happened in New York. But when you look at this gentleman, Mamdani, he is really the embodiment of the Red-Green Alliance, the Marxist communists, along with the Islamic jihadists. And that clip that you just showed absolutely portrays that. This is a very dangerous individual. But again, this is something I say, this is today's Democrat Party. And if they think that this is the future, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and the likes thereof, we should beat them about the head and shoulders about that, because the body of Christ is going to suffer, Americans going to suffer, this nation is going to suffer if we allow the Red-Green Alliance to take over, as Liz just said, the greatest city, the largest city in the United States of America. Reminds me of Sadiq Khan and what's happening over in London.
I'm going to play a video right now, and I'm not going to tell you where it is. You might can guess. Look at this video, and then I'll show you exactly where it's from. All right, that's from March of 25. That's not the one I was going to play. We're going to play the other one in just a minute. But he is protesting at the state capitol. Anyway, you see, that's the guy that had just won. Let me show you this video. In case you didn't know, I'll go ahead and tell you. This is Brooklyn. Look at this. If anyone that's traveled to these countries, I mean, this is not an unusual sight. However, Liz, it is unusual to see what we're seeing in a place like Brooklyn, in America. Your thoughts?
Yes, I completely agree with you. And I have to ask, everybody out there which I know where the FlashPoint Army stands, but, what cities are better because you have radical Muslims in power? London's not better, right? New York City, if this happens, it's not better. New York City has been struggling. We've seen more crime under Kathy Hochul and frankly, with Mayor Adams as well. And that video, the first video that you just showed, Gene, when that was at the state capitol, I remember that. Do you know who he was yelling at? He was yelling at Tom Homan. Who is trying to round up the radical, violent, illegal aliens here in our state. And that was Zohran Mamdani going after Tom Homan, being restrained by the New York State troopers. That's what he was doing there. I remember that very well.
So let's show that again. We showed it out of order, so we'll go ahead and play that video again. I just want people to see this is who he is. Okay, Rick.
I remember
your thoughts?
Very, very well.
Yeah, it's just sad, man. It's sad. I like to joke about the fact that all great things come from Texas, but that's not true. New York is a great source of American strength. So many of our great stories in our American history come from New York, not just the economic, but, you just go right down the line, Nathan Hill. There's so many incredible things. And so it's really sad to see, as you said, the greatest city in the world fall like this. But that's the price of bad leadership. We know this biblically. When the righteous rule, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. And for cities like New York, and it's mainly the blue cities, right? I mean, as Liz can tell us better, you get outside of there's great conservative areas all over New York. Colonel West is fighting this in the blue city of Dallas, trying to turn that around as well. But leadership matters. If you get good leadership with the right values, you can turn these things around. But if they continue to elect people like this, it's going to get worse and worse. And the question is, will these tough times be enough to wake up the churches in New York, wake up the good people that are in New York City to say is enough is enough? We're not going to put up with this anymore. I mean, how much pain does it take?
That's true. In fact, let me show you this real quick. Laura Ingram, she comments on it. Then I go to you, Colonel West. Watch.
So unless rich New Yorkers band together, donate a lot of money, and create a groundswell for a viable alternative to Mamdani, another great American city is going to swirl down the drain. And when it does, the rest of us should not be on the hook to bail it out. This is their decision. This is their choice.
That's so true. All right, Colonel West, your thoughts?
Yeah, it is their choice, and it's sad that you could see this affect many other people all across this country. My wife kind of grew up there in Brooklyn, and she recently was there in New York City, and she was just appalled when she came back here to Garland, Texas, what has become of Brooklyn and there in New York. So we have to stop this, again, this cancer that is metastasizing, moving all across the country. And think about it, when you see that Hamas flag that is flying across the United States of America, that means that the terrorists are claiming territory here in America. And if someone like Mamdani can become a mayor of our largest city, New York, what does that say about us? You got to get out and vote in these local level elections, which is something that we don't see a lot of people participating in.
Without a doubt. And I do believe, and I'll say it again, I believe FlashPoint Army in New York, you have your work cut out. We're going to help spread the word to get it. Liz, I'll let you comment. You got about a minute, your last minute on the show here. Comment about what people need to do there in New York.
Well, we need to stay involved, right? Just like what we did on November 5th of 2024. Remember, New York State went plus 11 points in every single county for President Trump. That's what we did here in New York because we turned out and we put our state going in the right direction. We need to do the same thing right now. Just because President Trump got into office does not mean New Yorkers, have to take their eye off the target of where we're trying to bring our state into the right direction. So we need to stay involved. We need to not be silent. We need to get out there and we need to lead. We need to be courageous. We need to stand up to do the right things for the right reasons, trust God for the results. And we have to remember to be praying over our cities. Our New York State is worth fighting for. And the people of New York turned out for President Trump. Right. And we need to continue that effort. And we need to remember that we are in a battle. And just because we won one battle, it doesn't mean we've won the war. So we need to continue forward and we cannot quit.
Amen. All right. Thank you to, of course, Colonel West, Rick Green, Liz Joy, and thank you for watching tonight. All of you all around the world, thank you. We're in all 50 states, D.C., and several countries around the globe. Listen, thank you for watching. Go share this video. A lot of good information tonight, but some real to-dos that we've got to take care of. Thank you for being a part. Remember, we're going to be right there in Louisville, Kentucky next week, July 4th. Come join us. Come join us. Rick Green will buy you fried chicken if he shows up. And I'm kidding, he won't be there. But if he was, we'd make him buy the chicken. Thank you for being a part. Remember, we're at FlashPoint, and we're always to the right of center. See you tomorrow.